Hello everyone, this is Voice Aloud and Vias. This is the third part. My family members were definitely afraid of my father as my mother was, and therefore they didn't do much. But I remember periodically throughout my life I've been in at least 13 maybe 16 different schools throughout my childhood. So having friends was an issue, and I didn't want any friends either. I became very insular and withdrawn. Main reason I feared that my father would hurt them as they was hurting us. And by age 9 or 10, no, I was 10. I remember was playing around with a stick and accidentally hit my dad, and he punished me and put me in my room. And he came in later and said, "Kimberly, you don't hurt people you love." And I looked at him square in the eye and I said, "Then why do you do it?" Well, he didn't have anything to say, and he later walked away. But I always wondered why he didn't answer me and what was going through his head. And after I said it, I was expecting the worst. I figured he was going to beat the crap out of me for saying it, but he never said. He just kind of looked away, and you saw like a little darkness come over his eyes, and he just left me alone and said, "I'll call you for dinner." And he did. When I did have friends, they were terrified of my father. A lot of other people believed that he had a mental illness, and no one really saw it. Mom and his friends never really saw it, but it wasn't until I was about 11 when an ambulance came because my father was having seizures, and he told my mom he was epileptic, but they were telling us a different story. She said it was a mental seizure. We didn't know what that meant. Mom didn't believe it, and when Mom told me, it made perfect sense because I was about 13 when I discovered that my father had schizophrenia and bipolar and was using drugs and alcohol to self-medicate. By the time I was 12 years old, we moved from a junkyard and only to Painter. And we lived in this very small trailer, and I was very much used to having my dad's friends share the bedroom with us. It always happened, and yes, I got fondled from that, but this time I almost was completely raped. Before it was just touching, and this time I was almost penetrated, and he almost took my virginity away. It was to the point when I begged him not to take it away because I want to save it for marriage. Then he backed off, and he just walked out and said he was going home. I told my father this. I actually spoke out, and he said, "Shut up, you're just a lion, you're nothing but a slut, and you're nothing but a whore." And I was thinking to myself, how can I be a slut and a whore if I was a virgin at age 12? It didn't really make any sense to me, but I didn't voice that out. And my mother believed me, and he finally gave in and said he'll never come back again, ever again. And 2 months later, he was back. And my mother was furious. It was that same day that, because Mom hurt her wrist, the men will know this, the big toolbox that you have in the back of your truck. Well, Mom was helping my dad move it, and it slammed on her hand, and it was just hanging. And she has so many stitches off that and was on controlled medicine, which I hid for her because my dad was popping them like candy, him and his friends. And I also hid money, so I used to grab a knife and cut little holes or tunnels in a mattress to hide stuff in, and he never knew any different. But so I was the one doing the dishes and the cleaning and stuff like that, and I was sweeping the trailer, and my dad walked in, and he got fierce. He told me, "You're not sweeping it right," which I didn't know there was a manual for sweeping. So he told me to watch him. So okay, I sat down and watched him, and I was kind of confused, and I was like, "Dad," he goes, "Huh?" I go, "You're sweeping the way I did." I wish I never said that he swept the way I was sweeping, and that I didn't see a difference, and it was the same exact way, because he grabbed that broom handle, and he hit me back here and back here on my head, and I lost all senses. I couldn't feel. I just remember shaking a lot like this. It was almost like an out-of-body experience for me. I lost my sight. I couldn't speak. I couldn't hear anything. I don't know how I got out of the trailer, but when I came to, I was sitting on the step of the trailer and I just kind of stumbled and everything was blur so badly, and I just stumbled and I found my dad's friends and they looked at me and they just stood up and said, "What the hell did your father do to you?" And I told them that he hit me in the head with the broomstick. And I told my mother, and she was furious. And it wasn't shortly afterward that day that my mom told him to choose drugs over us. And he chose drugs over his family. And we went to a homeless shelter, for our battered shelter for women and children. And actually, one of our family members, who was my cousin, actually helped us flee from this situation.